Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast to the protection against heavy rain and flooding, by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Flood Protection Secrets. In episode 103, that was a previous one, we followed architect Santos, a Filipino architect, as he designed a commercial building with flood protection in mind. And we saw how he faced tight budget constraints and the harsh reality that later on contractors often ignore specifications to cut costs, buying the cheapest flood barriers they can find, even plastic sheets mislabeled as protection. We learned that when flooding strikes, those cheap shortcuts fail, leaving clients angry and projects in ruins. Architect Santos realized too late that good intentions are not enough. His plans needed to be airtight to protect both the building and his reputation. And now in episode 104, we will uncover the solution, and the story goes on. So, why architects must prepare clear, detailed terms of reference, TORs, T-O-R, for flood barriers, how TORs protect you and your client from contractors substituting low-quality products, what must go into terms of references to ensure quality, safety, and real flood protection, while keeping your project on time and within a realistic budget, and how your clear terms of references help you avoid finger pointing, costly delays, and damaged professional trust when flood comes. If you missed the previous episode 103, consider listening first to understand how tight budgets and vague specs can destroy projects, and you can always come back to this episode, of course. Stay tuned as we break down what to write, how to write it, and why your terms of references is your best defense against floods and budget disasters. Many architects believe their job ends once the flood barriers are included in their plans. But here's a reality you can't ignore. If you don't define exactly what type and quality of flood barriers should be used, you risk seeing your hard work turned into cheap, ineffective installations. We've seen it across Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao. An architect designs a flood-resilient building only to find the contractor later replaces the intended barriers with flimsy metal sheets or worse, cheap plastic panels just to save on costs. So, I've split today's episode into three short parts. Part number one is tells why terms of references matter. So, the terms of references, I mentioned already, abbreviation is TOR, T-O-R, are more than paperwork. They are your shield of quality. Terms of references defines the real flood protection needs of the project, specifies the type, performance level, and certification requirements of the flood barriers. To be honest, I've never seen that in specifications of architects when customers send us some documents for a project. The clear specification, the performance level, certification requirements, it's not there. I don't know why. And terms of references also forces contractors to deliver on quality, not just low price. Without the clear terms of references, contractors can technically fulfill your plans while delivering a product that fails when flooding hits, risking your reputation and your client's investment. Yeah, so that is why terms of references matters. That leads us to part number two, a real example. As I mentioned already, I told the story of architect Santos in the previous episode of Flood Protection Secrets. He designed a mixed-use building in Quezon City, knowing heavy rain and flash floods are regular threats. In the previous episode, I talked about the metro project and the commercial building project in the Middle East, where rain is very seldom. So it only rains perhaps 1 or 2 or 3 days a year. Yeah, in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia and Singapore and Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, it's the opposite, because they have a season that is called rainy season, and typhoons are very, very not popular, but they have become a normal part of the life. Only to give you a number, almost an average 25 typhoons hit the country of the Philippines every year, year by year. Okay, let's go back to our story. The real example of architect Santos and his mixed-use building in Quezon City. When construction began, the contractor replaced the intended certified flood barriers with local fabricated panels, calling them flood barriers because they looked similar. And the end customer later discovered that the local flood barrier was only 19 millimeter thick. In contrast, the barrier certified by the world's largest US commercial and industrial building insurance company, FM Global, so they insure airports, subways, villages, big hospitals, congress centers, and things like that. Bigger factories, of course, as well. And this certified flood barrier that measured 57 millimeters. That is the RSD mountable flood barrier coming from Germany. So 90 millimeters and 57 millimeters. That means you need 3 of the local barriers to replace a heavy-duty barrier. Which one do you think will protect you better? And the local cheap and thin one with low sealing features as well is more expensive than the solution from the flood experts. At the end, it's more expensive, and you get flooded. So that means the whole investment was for nothing. That is like you use a window. In my previous example, in episode 103, I talked about imagine a high-rise building, and in the 15th floor there are no windows because the contractor wanted to cut costs, and he decided to take out the windows or to replace it by very cheap windows. And when the first wind blows, the windows break because they cannot withstand the wind forces. Have you ever seen that? No, normally not. But when it comes to flood protection, the things are not described well. And the building code is not thinking about that, and that is why the architects very often and the engineers, they don't know about it, and that is why they give the responsibility in the hands of the contractors, and for them it has no value because as long as it's not described in the plans, they don't do it, so they use the cheapest thing they can take. And they don't care about any safety or what happens later because they are only the contractor. That is, at the end of the day, a mistake by the architect, but not only the architect, but the end customer. But somebody must tell the end customer that it is important, and that is up to you, the architects, because you are in touch with the owners, with the investors, and that should become your duty to inform the investor about the risks of his investment when it comes to natural forces like heavy rain and flooding. So what is the solution? Perhaps I should mention that when the first heavy rain came and water pushed through the weak seals in this example, I didn't mention the result, and the thin panels, and tenants lost inventory, the basement flooded, and the property owner faced repairs that cost 3 to 5, I think even 5 times more than proper barriers would have. Only when you see the works, I did not include the costs for the damages. That is, of course, by far more and more. Then you can count millions and millions, and I talk about dollars, not Philippine pesos. What is the solution? I will just explain it here in part 3. It's a quick one, this one, but I keep it quick and easy to understand that you can remember it. as an architect. I'm only an engineer. I'm not an architect, but I adore the beauty of the buildings of these architects. So as an architect, you need 3 points. Point number 1, collaborate with flood protection experts during the design phase. Please do so. Don't let me correct the plans when everything is already installed. We should do that before. But very often there is no money for all these things and nobody's spending time on that. But anyway, collaborate with flood protection experts and sometimes things can be answered in an easy way. Point number 2, for you as an architect, you need to know is draft clear, detailed terms of references describing the flood protection system, performance requirements, and certification standards. It really need to be described word by word, comma by comma. If not, it is so easy for the contractor to change everything regarding flood protection, but don't forget it is your name on the plans. But then one day you will lose your reputation, or you might lose your reputation because your plans don't work. The windows you have drawn, you have designed, they work well. The elevators, they work well. The doors, they work well. The sprinkler system, it works well. But the flood protection system, it doesn't, because you didn't spend the time and you didn't think about that as you should think about it, like what you did for the other details. Because flood protection is not a part of education at universities. Even in Germany it is not. So it is not a part of the building codes. And that is why you need to get this knowledge on your own. So that is why collaborate with flood protection experts during the design phase. Draft clear detailed terms of references describing the flood protection systems, performance requirements and certification standards. Specify installation, maintenance and operational training in your terms of references, because without maintenance it will not work. We observe that so often that once the flood barriers are installed, I ask about the annual maintenance and the training, and then the contractor says, it's not written in my plan. I only should make sure that for 2 years we have warranty. I said, and who is teaching the people to install the barriers? Oh, that's not my concern. What do you think will happen? Nobody will install these things. That means the building will get flooded. Even with flood barriers, but because there's nobody who is taught and has the knowledge and the brain, and there's no manager who knows when shall he give instruction to install the barriers, so things do not work. In companies it is completely different because they have emergency plans. They are organized in a better way. I always ask my question, why is it not possible to do with the facility management companies? But the answer is very simple, because the instruction is not there. They always say, oh, it's not part of my work. It's not in my contract, because nobody was even thinking to include it into the contract. So you as an architect, you can make some points when you talk to your investor, because it's your client, about this fact of the importance of flood protection, and that it is not only a piece of metal sheet that you put in front of your door. Yeah, thanks for listening, and don't leave yet, because I still have my small golden nugget at the end of this episode for you, and for especially today for you, my dear architects. The title of this episode today is Mastering Terms of Reference for Flood Protection. And here comes my golden nugget for you, the architects. Sheep barriers may cost less now, but will cost your clients and your reputation much more later. That is why please precise terms of reference, ensure your design intent, and translate everything into real. And that at the end of the day, the flood protection is installed in a proper way on site, and you do not lose your reputation. If you found this episode valuable, subscribe to Flood Protection Secrets wherever you get your podcasts, and share it with a colleague who designs a flood-prone area. For personal guidance, reach out to me if you like. My name is Andreas Klippe, German engineer, or visit our Asian headquarters in the Philippines. The links are in the description below. And remember, clear terms of references today save you from disaster tomorrow and increases your reputation. Stay safe and flood free. I wish and hope for you that you make the right decisions when it comes to your personal flood protection. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast channel if you haven't already. Now it only remains for me to wish you a good day. Do something with it. Maybe until the next podcast episode. I would be very happy. See you then. As always, stay safe and flood free. Your Andreas Klippe and the whole Flood Experts team.
That's it again with the new episode of Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe, German engineer, book author, and head of the Flood Experts. What can Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe protect for you? Anytime? Worldwide? Contact us or just click through to www.floodexperts.de/bonus. Detailed engineering, German quality, safe. Flood protection secrets. The secrets you'll want to unfold.
Don't forget, you're only one flood barrier away.
Subscribe to the season, and you'll never be late for an episode.